What happens when a husband refuses the loud fight and lets the law speak instead? How did my brave speech, "Get out if you can't handle me," turn into a quiet knock, a camera in a courthouse lobby, and a stack of papers with my name on them? Why did I think attention was safety? Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. My name is Zephyr Morrow, and I worked as a pharmacy tech. I told stories in my head when pills clicked into trays. I said I deserved more love. I said secrecy was abuse. When Owen found the jacket on our guest bed, he asked what it meant. I said he made me lonely. He asked when it started. I said time was a blur. I told him to get out if he could not handle me. I felt strong as I said it. I still say I was brave. Owen stayed calm. He checked on our daughter, Isla. He said noise would not help. He slept in the guest room. I called that control. I called his quiet a kind of attack. I sent a message to Marco and wrote that freedom felt good. At home, the sign sat in plain view. 2 mugs waited on opposite counters. A red circle stared from the wall planner. His laptop closed when I came near. A muted phone lit up as private. Later, I saw a reminder on his screen. Downtown 11:10 a.m. I told myself it was nothing. I told myself I would own the story. I felt very safe. I stood in the bedroom and held Marco's jacket like it was a trophy. Owen looked at it and looked at me. He asked what it meant. I said he had starved me of love. He asked when it started. I said time was a blur and feelings do not use calendars. He asked if I had thought of Isla. I said a happy mother is a better mother. I told him to get out if he could not handle me. The words felt warm in my mouth. I called it strength. I still call it that. He did not raise his voice. He walked past me and checked on Isla. I followed and said his quiet was a trick. He said sleep mattered for a child. I said control mattered for a man like him. He took a pillow and blanket and went down the hall. I took a photo of the guest bed before he reached it, and I told myself I was collecting proof of his coldness. He set the blanket down and closed the door halfway. I said halfway doors were emotional walls. I opened the door wider, and he closed it again without slamming. His calm made my skin buzz. In the kitchen, I set 2 mugs on opposite counters. I told myself I was showing boundaries. I placed my mug near the window with the small basil plant and his mug by the sink. The plant looked tired. I posted a soft story about choosing myself. I added a line about trial separation energy. Tamsin replied with hearts and a sun. I felt clean and new. Owen came out and opened his laptop on the table. A spreadsheet blinked up with initials and dates. I asked what it was. He said it did not concern me. I said secrecy was abuse. He minimized the window and set the computer to sleep. I said he was scoring me like homework. He did not answer that. He rinsed his mug and placed it far from mine again, like the mugs were 2 people who should not touch. I told myself, distance helps men who fear strong women. On the wall planner, a red circle sat around the coming Thursday. I asked what it marked. He said personal tasks. I said personal tasks hide motives. He checked his phone, and a muted notification lit the screen with private. He declined the call and laid the phone face down. I said secret numbers do not make honest men. He said peace matters. I called that sentence a lecture. I walked to the guest room and lifted the bedspread corner, then smoothed it the way hotels do. I told myself fresh starts need clean lines. I took Marco's jacket and hung it on the back of a chair in the living room. I stared at it for a full minute and felt taller. I messaged Marco to meet tomorrow at the co-working café. He replied fast and said he could do a late lunch. I read the text twice and smiled at the blue light. I returned to the bedroom to collect laundry and found a small sticky note on my dresser that read, "Bring forms." I told myself it was from last month's school papers. I tossed it back in the bowl with loose buttons. I told myself order is a cage. I picked a dress that said I was unbothered. Before sleep, I stopped by Isla's room. She breathed slow. I brushed her hair back and whispered that everything was fine. I told myself children forget noise. The apartment was very still. From the study, I heard the faint start of the printer and then a soft stop, like a cough. I stood listening and called it a glitch. I checked Owen's phone when he washed his face. A calendar reminder flashed for a second. Downtown 11:10 a.m. I told myself it was a haircut. I told myself he was finally doing something for his looks. I crawled into bed and imagined the story I would tell at the café. A brave woman forced to grow. Morning at the pharmacy felt like fluorescent water on my face. I counted pills and watched the tray shine. Mr. Kessler asked if I had a minute. I said I was free. He led me to the HR nook with the soft chairs and the old poster about safe handling. He said a tagged photo had reached the store account because the cafe had tagged our location. I said, love is private and also art. He said, we need to avoid community conflict. I said, community loves honesty. He looked at the floor and then at me. He asked me to keep work separate. I said I always did. Back in the break room, Della from HR sent an email reminder about public conduct. I saw the preview and swiped it away. I opened the staff chat and sent a picture of my lunch with a caption about healthy choices. I told myself healthy meant bold choices for the heart. A tech showed me her phone with Marco's late-night post from yesterday. It was a photo of my back at the co-working space from last week. I said it was old and harmless. She said people in the comments were guessing it was me. I said people guess wrong all the time. At my locker, I checked messages. Tamsin had posted a quote about shedding skins and tagged me in a story with sparkles. Jory and Neela sent me ideas for captions. I wrote a line that said, my vows had not covered starvation. I saved it as a draft. I told myself I was the first woman to speak this plain. At lunch, I walked to the co-working cafe. Marco stood behind the counter and slid me a free iced drink like I was a regular movie star. He said the light by the window would be great. I said the light always found me. He asked if I could repeat the scene when Owen found the jacket. I said discovery was not the point, growth was the point. He grinned and set his phone to record. I told the camera that truth feels like air after a closed room. People at nearby tables looked up. One woman frowned. Another pressed her lips together. I focused on my voice and called myself a teacher without a classroom. We moved to a back table where the plants hid the wall outlets. Marco adjusted angles and said the algorithm likes confession but needs rhythm. I said I could deliver rhythm. I added a line about trial separation energy and how a good man gives space. He nodded like a coach. I liked that. I told myself I was finally seen. On my way back to work, Etienne from our building stood by the door with a tote bag. He asked if everything was all right at home. I said everything was better than all right. He looked like he wanted to add a rule to a list. I walked faster and told myself neighbors are small kings in small castles. The pharmacy floor was busy. A mother asked for cough syrup and gave me exact change. I smiled and thought of the real. Mr. Kessler watched me bag vitamins. He asked if we could talk after shift. I said we could. He asked gently if I had support. I said I had a whole world. He nodded and moved away. I told myself his concern was actually fear of my boldness. At closing, Della appeared near our registers for a routine check. She asked if I had seen the conduct email. I said I had. She asked if I needed to discuss anything. I said there was nothing to discuss. She said clear boundaries help everyone at work. I said the workday was over and I would rest. She smiled flat and left. I called that smile a warning and then pretended it was nothing. I took the bus home after dark. The apartment smelled faintly of toner again, like a warm office at night. On the entry table, the outbox held an unsealed envelope. I lifted the flap and found it empty. I asked Owen what it was for. He said later. I asked later when. He said later soon. I rolled my eyes and called him dramatic. He said order helps him think. I said chaos helps me live. He opened his laptop in the study. When I stepped in, he minimized a window mid-edit. I asked if he was writing a speech. He said he was compiling notes. I said notes are weapons. He said notes are records. He kept the tone even. I felt the evenness as a slap. I showered and texted Marco. I told him we should do a rooftop tonight for part 2. He said the bar near the station had a smoking patio with the city behind it. He said a toast would sell the moment. I said I would bring the spicy line. Jory and Neela said they would come and call for a cheer. I tried on a jacket that made my shoulders look clean and hard. In the mirror, I looked like a person who deserved applause. As I left the bedroom, I heard a soft whir from the study and then a single sheet feed through and stop. The printer spit a blank page and went quiet. I called out that the machine was haunted. Owen said machines only do what we ask. I said that sounded like a threat. He said it was only a fact. I laughed too loud and grabbed my bag. The rooftop bar felt like a stage. The wind lifted my hair, and the city made a hard, bright line behind the rail. Marco said the patio light would flatter my face. I said the story would flatter the truth. He held up his phone and counted with his fingers. I began with a soft voice and said, some women breathe better after they open a window. I said a marriage can be a room with no air. People turned. A group near the heaters stopped talking. Cass and Nyla waved from the side and raised their drinks. I felt taller. Marco nodded at me to go sharper. I said a partner who goes silent can push a person to find sound outside. A woman near the menu board frowned. She asked if I was humiliating my husband for likes. I said I was educating the public about honesty. She said it sounded like I was proud. I said pride is a right. Marco tilted the phone and whispered that the line landed. I smiled as if I had declared a law. Cass called for a cheer. Nyla clapped in rhythm. The table next to us lifted their phones. A man shouted for the name. I said names were private, but lessons were public. Laughter moved like foam across the patio. Marco whispered that we needed the reveal hint. I said my husband worked in IT and liked order more than people. I said order can choke love. The table with the phones hummed. I felt the wind cool and loved it. I told the discovery story without details. I said I saw hunger in a mirror, not in a man. I said my vows could not cover starvation. A woman near the rail shook her head and turned away. A couple by the door looked at me with careful faces. I stared past them at the horizon and let the city pull me forward. I felt the old rush that told me I could make shape out of anything. Marco said we needed a final beat. I said a good man leaves for growth. I said I told my husband to get out. A few people gasped and then laughed in a thin way. The chant for a toast rose from the group with phones. Cass lifted her drink and told them to count. I held up my own glass and let the timer on the screen beep. I felt like a conductor. The phones lifted higher. My phone buzzed with unknown caller. I left it to buzz in my bag. Marco asked for a second angle by the smoking area. We moved, and I gave a line about trial separation energy and fresh starts. Etienne from my building stood by the exit with a coat over his arm. He filmed from chest height. He did not smile. I said he should enjoy the night. He said the building was quiet this week. I said, quiet can be kind or cruel. He looked at me like a person measuring a window with a tape. We did a last take near the door, where the neon sign glowed. I said, men who love rules should learn to bend. Marco nodded and said the clip would cut well. Cass asked if she should tag a meme page. I said yes and told her to add a flame emoji. Nyla asked for my brave face photo. I tilted my chin and gave it. The patio applauded because the chant had told them to. I went home near midnight. The stairwell felt cooler than usual. The apartment was tidy and dim. The smell of toner sat in the air like a shadow. From the study, I heard the hum of the shredder and then a clean stop. I said the machine ate paper for fun. Owen sat at the desk with his laptop open. When I stepped in, the screen minimized mid-edit. He put his hand on the lid and closed it. I asked if he was writing a breakup speech. He said he was organizing. I said organizing is another word for control. He said records help people stay calm. In the bedroom, I scrolled the first comments. Some praised my honesty. Some asked about my daughter. I told myself the loudest voices matter most. I set an alarm to post in the morning before work. On my dresser, the sticky note with bring forms reappeared under a hair clip. I pushed it into the drawer and told myself it had followed me by accident. I fell asleep with the phone in my hand. Ruth's birthday dinner filled a long table with noise and pictures. The restaurant had old frame photos and soft lamps. I wore a calm blue dress and said we should show we were fine. Owen sat near Isla and kept his hand on the back of her chair. He asked her about art class. She said she had painted a tree with a red circle in the sky. I looked at the circle in my head and thought of our wall planner. I told myself the link meant nothing. I tried to stage a cake shot. Ruth sat tall and straight and watched me the way a nurse watches a drip. She asked if we could eat first. I said the internet loves warm moments. She said the table loved quiet first. I laughed and said quiet was for people who had nothing to say. The cousin at the far end pulled out his phone and said he had seen my rooftop clip. I said the clip was art. He said the art sounded like a man we knew. I said people project. Cass and Neela slid into 2 chairs that a nephew had left open. They told the table I was brave. Ruth looked at them without a smile. She asked how long they had known me. They said years. She asked if they knew Isla's favorite storybook. They said they did not. She turned back to me. She said I should wait before teaching the world. I said the world needs teachers who have lived. The cousin pressed play on my clip without sound. The timer flashes pulsed across my own face. The waitstaff paused and looked, then went on. Owen's shoulders stayed level. He did not move toward me. He cut a slice of bread for Isla and handed it to her, with butter already spread. I said he was performing for the room. He asked Isla if she wanted water or juice. I said he was bribing the jury. He kept his eyes on Isla, not me. I reached for the cake knife and said we should smile for a family shot. Ruth said we could smile after we respected each other. I said my post was honest. She said honesty without care is a cut. I said care without truth is a lie. She folded her napkin in half and set it straight. I watched the edge of the cloth and felt the line run across my skin. Isla looked up at me and asked if Daddy would move out. Her voice was gentle and small. She asked if the coffee man would come live with us. The table went quiet like a held breath. I said change is good for growth. Owen said bedtime would stay the same no matter what. Ruth said the family should not learn plans from a public video. I felt heat in my neck and called it courage. A cousin asked if I had considered Owen's work. He said people talk in small towns. I said small towns love drama more than truth. The cousin held up my clip again and pointed at the part where I hinted at IT work. He said that was not kind. I said I had not named anyone. He said I had not needed to. Cass muttered that people were too sensitive. Nyla said I should not apologize. Ruth said the room did not require an apology. It required care. Owen paid the bill early and stood. He took Isla's jacket and said he would take her to the car. I said we had not done the group photo. He said the photo could wait. He walked with Isla and kept his hand on her back the way you guide a person through a crowd. Ruth rose and put on her coat and told me to come outside for air. I followed her into the cooler night. In the parking lot, I kept posting a defensive carousel. I wrote that modern love means telling the truth. Ruth said Isla had asked her teacher today if jokes can make a homesick. I said children ask strange things. Ruth said children ask because adults fail to explain with kindness. I said the crowd had already chosen. She said crowds melt. I looked at the restaurant windows and saw our table reflected like a stage set. Owen opened the trunk of the car. Inside, I saw 3 binders with neat white labels that read Home, Auto, Bank. They lay flat like bricks. On his keyring, a small silver key hung that I did not know. It looked new. He checked his phone and locked it. I saw a calendar tile flash meeting. Personal for tomorrow morning. The light on the screen slid away. I told myself he had finally booked therapy to fix his pride. I told myself the binders meant nothing but a man's habit. Isla climbed into her seat and asked if Daddy was moving to Grandma's house. Owen said she would sleep well tonight and that he would see her in the morning. Ruth rested her hand on Isla's shoulder and told her the cake would be boxed for later. I stood by the bumper with my camera app open and tried to frame the balloons in the shot. The angle cut Owen in half. I posted the shot anyway. My hand shook, so I blamed the wind. A neighbor from across the street walked past the lot and stared. Etienne nodded once and kept walking. I told myself his nod was respect. I knew it was not. Comments stacked under my carousel. Some called me brave. Some asked about Isla. I scrolled fast so the words blurred. Owen closed the trunk, and the latch clicked clean. He said he would take Isla home now. I said people would think he was upset. He said he would not perform for them. I said silence looked like guilt. He said silence looked like care. Ruth looked at me and said I should stop posting and go home. I said I would not be silenced. She said I should not confuse silence with peace. I waited on the balcony and watched brake lights crawl like ants. I told myself a joint apology would calm the storm and save my job. I walked inside and found Owen packing Isla's backpack. He said she would sleep at Ruth's for a few nights. I said that looked like punishment. He said it looked like rest. I said rest could come after he stood with me on camera. He said he would not perform. At the school pickup line earlier, he stood apart from other parents. His phone lit with a thread titled "Follow Up" before he tucked it away. I asked if we were having dinner together to show unity. He said he would keep things simple for Isla. I said simple was weak. He said simple was safe. In the kitchen, our mugs faced opposite directions. I set my phone on a tripod and filmed a soft light apology. I spoke about context and misunderstanding. He watched for a moment and then opened his laptop. I reached for the trackpad. He closed the lid with 2 fingers and said I should stop posting about the house. I said silence was consent. He said silence was a boundary. When he walked to the hallway, I lifted the lid again. The desktop showed a clean tree, Archive A and Archive B. A small box said file uploaded successfully. My stomach pricked. I opened a drawer for a pen and saw a single USB stick labeled with today's date. The floorboard creaked. I slid the drawer shut. It clicked just as he stepped back in. In the study, a thin binder labeled Utilities sat heavier than bills. On the shelf, a taxes folder had a small strip of tape at the back. I touched it and felt a hard shape beneath. I left it alone. My phone alarm buzzed with the title Paper Drop. I swiped it away and called it a work reminder. He packed toothbrush, pajamas, and a pink hair tie into Isla's bag. He knelt and tucked a folded page into her book. I said he was painting me as a villain. He said he would handle the situation properly. He did not raise his voice. He did not explain. He said only that, and the rest of the room went still. I followed him to the balcony and asked if properly meant therapy or a press note. He said it meant proper steps. I asked him to define steps. He said definitions would come in time. I called delay control. He called pace mercy. He took his keys. A small new silver key glinted on the ring. He left for Ruth's. I stared at my draft apology and saw my eyes shake. I recorded again with a harder tone. From the study, the printer spooled once and stopped. My phone flashed a missed call from no-caller ID. The desk drawer I had opened earlier gave a soft lock click. I told myself calm men bluff. I told myself tomorrow I would force a fix. I walked into the courthouse lobby with a speech in my head about love and truth. The floor shone. The cameras watched from high corners. Ruth had asked to talk in the plaza. I planned to stage a brave post after. I straightened my jacket and told myself the day would bow to me. An elevator bell rang. A man with a messenger bag asked my name. I said yes without thinking. He placed a thick packet in my hands and said I was being served. He said it concerned a divorce petition with temporary financial and possession orders and a temporary parenting schedule filing. He said service was now complete. He turned and walked away. I laughed and said this was overkill. Ruth stood by the glass with Isla, who held a small stuffed fox. Owen was there but did not enter. He did not raise a hand. He watched like a teacher waiting for quiet. I lifted my phone to film the packet and my face. Security asked me to stop recording in the lobby. I lowered the phone. A notice buzzed on my screen saying a recent post had been removed after a privacy complaint. My chest felt hollow and hot at once. Ruth said she would take Isla home for lunch. I said I had not agreed to anything. Owen said the temporary schedule began today. He kept his voice level and his hands at his sides. I said he was punishing me. He said he was following the process. He added nothing else. A few people turned to look when the elevator chimed again. The lobby camera light blinked red. I tried to step toward Owen. A guard asked me to keep the entrance clear. I said I only wanted to talk. The guard repeated the rule. I stared at the glass and saw myself instead of him. Behind me, the clerk's window printer sang a thin line and stopped. Owen nodded once to Ruth and led Isla toward the plaza. Isla looked back at me and held the fox tighter. I opened my mouth and then closed it. The packet edges pressed into my palm like a ruler. I moved toward the exit and the door opened for a stranger. The latch clicked clean when it shut again. I stood with the packet in my hand and no words left. The moment ended. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching.